Dimp Digital presents Idle Game Chat.
Cool.
So Logan, we like to talk up big successes of big games potentially. And what bigger game is there than Starfield at the moment?
I wondered if we might start here or not. I thought there's
Well.
probably little chance we'll get through it this week without discussing it. It wasn't out by the time we'd done last week, so
We've been
the
through
reviews
that.
were.
We've done that early access to. Well, actually, it was the early access had just started. So if you were, if you'd paid the, we'll talk about that as well. If you paid the sort of upgrade fee and being part of Game Pass, 35 UK pounds, get the expansion pass included, we could have been playing it for 5-6 days beforehand, but their version of day one Game Pass didn't start until many days after, many hours after, so that lie continues. But here's what the official Starfield Twitter account had to say. As of this morning, #Starfield has already surpassed 6 million players, making it the biggest Bethesda game launch of all time. So that's a fantastic number for them to yield sort of days into the launch of the game. I do want to bring this other data point up because it's interesting how it must have worked out. 2015, November 13th, GameSpot I've gone to, which are, you can't really talk about GameSpot anymore because they gave it a 7 out of 10 Starfield, so they're on the shit list for people. Yeah, can he go there anymore? Because they're corrupted, you see. Here's the headline from 2015. Fallout 4 ships 12 million copies in one day, breaks records. So if we now look at the data we've been given from the Starfield account, 6 million players, they're saying that makes it the biggest launch of all time. So clearly in terms of units out there, that's a lie. Game Pass obviously muddies the water slightly. But what it says to me is that out of the 12 million people that bought Fallout 4, less than half of them played it on the first day or the first week. Because you can't, unless the Twitter account is lying completely, you can't even be saying, how are they measuring biggest launch? Well, probably most people playing the game.
Mini Notes will come along and correct them if it is bullshit. The ultimate fact checkers they are.
They get full fact on it. I might report it to them. Got a little WhatsApp reporter. I did that once. They didn't even get back to me next. Pathetic from them.
I think it depends what they mean. The devil is in the detail, right?
There ain't no detail, is it? You never get the detail in this business. You just get the headlines.
And then they just looked at it at a point in time and gone, 6 million, we'll tick that off. That's the most ever at this point in time on a Bethesda game. Look, I think, I'm just looking at the Open Critics score now, and it's an 88. I think you and I speculated last week it might go sort of up a few points or down a few points. I think 80. I think last week when we discussed it was about an 80.
It's been going between 87 and 88, and there's a couple of review sites that didn't get it that are probably still working their way through it. One which we flagged was the Bit of Metro article from last week where they absolutely went in on them. And I did have a quick read of their impressions as they go kind of chat. And at the end, they did say, well, at the moment, we can't imagine giving it any more than a 6 out of 10. And I was like, they really are salty about this.
Yeah, they're really...
And even if they're not, that article going up, well, people just go, well, salt merchants, isn't you? So...
Yeah, it's never going to get any credence.
No.
I mean, unless they come out and said, you know what, this is actually brilliant, sort of thing. Like, there's a couple of drawbacks. Like, that's when you could think, oh, that's... they're not salty, but you think anything that looks a little bit lower than that kind of meta score, you think, I'm not too sure. But
you always get outliers. You always get them.
100%. Yeah, that's fine. Like
Metro,
that.
just for example, I think Final Fantasy 16 is an 88 or an 89. Okay,
yeah.
So highly thought of as well. Metro gave that a 6. So they're not. They do like to drag these games
Nintendo
down.
though.
Nintendo 10 out of 10. That's Super Mario Wonder. If that's not a 10 or a 9, then that must be really bad from them. Like, it must be. They must have done something wrong, Nintendo.
Yeah. So it was good to see, actually. It's good to see it going up. I mean, I tuned into a couple of streams, and I must admit I didn't watch a huge amount of it or anything like that. But the ones that I did stream, and I think everyone's kind of chimed into this narrative that it's boring, and everyone just wants to chirp out that.
It's fucking space, though. What?
Yeah, I know, and it's fine. And
Armstrong was bored a bit. I got up there and was like, well...
A lot of sitting around.
There's a lot of sitting around. There is. There's a lot of sitting around. That's absolutely true.
I think, one of them was like, oh, it's, if it doesn't pick up after this mission, then I'm going to go and do something. And I was a bit like, well, you look like you're super early on in a game. Like, sometimes these things just take a little while to, like... A
little slow burner.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I was thinking about this, actually, when I'd kind of tuned into the stream and I was listening to it. I was a bit like, has everyone just got so used to these, like, it's sort of like action junkies where everything's got to be happening, it's got to be this like visual explosion, like every film's a superhero film and it's going bang, like Transformers, and you get on games like Call of Duty and it's like, oh, shoot people, I'm dead, shoot people, I'm dead. Everything's a bit like manic all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you get these games that are a bit slower, and I think from what I've seen, there are some pretty epic space battles and things that can go on in Starfield.
But it's not an out-and-out action game. This is the thing.
Right. So this is the point I'm trying to get to. It's kind of like there will be periods in games like this, and when I've watched Fallout streams as well, like there are significant periods of downtime. You're just wandering. And it's going to be similar in something like this, where you're just exploring, and there will be periods of downtime. And it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't know what people have like come to expect necessarily. It's kind of like just enjoy it for what it is, and it's something a bit different. But I don't know why. It just, I mean, obviously my expectations of this, I was trying to set myself on the lower bar, so I wasn't like disappointed. But I always knew I was erring myself on this kind of like almost cynical, less optimistic side because I'm not too sure. But I must admit, I think it looks good. I really think it does. And, some of the elements of it might end up being a bit dry, and that's to be expected. But I think overall, it looks like it's been relatively successful. I haven't heard of everyone moaning about frame rate drops and technical issues and all this kind of stuff that could be expected to accompany it. And the most people I think I've seen, I mean, I haven't been delving into the depths, but the most people have been chucking it at it is it can be a bit boring. And it's like, well, if you want to, and this, to be fair, and this is from a guy he was an Overwatch streamer, right? So one of them is, so he's used to doing that kind of like death cycle sort of game. But, I think some of the other streamers I've been watching, I mean, out of all people that I thought might not enjoy it, the one that I always go back to, Dr. Disrespect, the old Doc, he seems to be really liking it. So, I think it's been more positive this week in terms of, I think, its reception than perhaps pre-launch. But that's not to say they've done everything perfectly, and I'm sure we'll get into some of the nitty-gritty.
Well, Adkins has gone out and played this. He started playing it. I think he's done something like... What's he said here?
He ain't completing it.
He ain't... Well, this is the problem. He's playing Baldur's Gate at the same time as well.
Literally, what are you doing?
So 9 hours, 40 minutes, he said to me. And, he's got a lot of toot in there. Lots of loading screens, he says. He says he's missing the No Man's Sky seamless experience where you fly onto the planet and land anywhere on the planet. Like,
yes,
that's missing. But he has said that the Bethesda kind of trappings are there, which No Man's Sky would never have, like the questing and the discovery of interesting factions. If you got the 2 and
just went...
There's something there, and I think depending on if you want to go and explore space and, get lost just wandering and stuff, like, perhaps No Man's Sky is the better option. But if you want something that's a little bit more structured with depth and consequence and things like that, then Starfield feels like the better one. But he seems like he's enjoying it. I don't know how far he'll get before he crumbles off. He keeps he's got Baldur's Gate 3 sitting there, which he's loving at the moment. That's caused splash damage. That Baldur's Gate 3 on Starfield, undoubtedly. Like, don't dismiss that as a conversation or as a point what people are getting stuck on, because that has ultimately come out and blown people's bollocks off. And then when something comes out weeks later, which is, whilst a completely different setting, is still going to be put in the same, menu of, it's an RPG of sorts. He's got lots of differences, but also there's similarities there. People are going to start to go, well, they're doing this and they're not living up to that. I mean, poor old Horizon had it twice, both their games. Horizon Zero Dawn, a few weeks later, Breath of the Wild come out. That was it. Open world game, had to change that very second. Forbidden West comes out, and they think, right, we've got away from the Zelda hype. People have stopped chirping on about that. People have come back to the planet Earth, and then a few weeks later, Elden Ring come out, and they're, it's changed again. The unfortunate thing for Starfield is that Baldur's Gate came first. So whereas at least Horizon got a couple of weeks of people going, this is good, and then as soon as they came along, they was like, oh no, that's shit now. It's like that meme of, like, I don't know if you remember Toy Story, probably from the original Toy Story, where he's like, I don't want to play this anymore, and he drops Woody. It's kind of like that's what happened to Horizon, but Starfield had a similar issue, unfortunately. And as you alluded to last week, it is an exceptional year in terms of games coming out and scoring so highly. It's one of the best ones we've had. So again, it's in a pack amongst some real giants. So I say all that to say that Adkins is playing it, and we'll get thoughts on him if and when he finishes it at some point. But is this lurking anywhere for you now that you've had a little look at it? Seeing there's probably no Scrabblers to be scared of. I mean, there are wildlife and whatnot, but as far as I know, maybe no scary parts of it. But it could be. You've been on this venture to try and branch out a little bit. This is surely a candidate to spend some time in once you've finished other duties.
Yeah, I've got a bit of a backlog that I want to clear, and I'm kind of working through it. I'm a bit basically working through Spider-Man. I've got Miles Morales to do. I want to get up to date before the new Spider-Man, but I'm concerned I'll fucking fatigue myself. I might want to play it when it comes out anyway.
Well, for the record, I'm doing the same thing. I've just started playing Spider-Man again, and I was thinking, this is probably a mistake, but unfortunately we decided months ago I wanted to play both of those before 2 came out, and I've left it way too late, and Starfield's been a casualty of that, because I should have been playing that this week, and I just didn't.
It's brilliant, but it's very rinse and repeat is what I would say, and I'm not, it is what it is, and I'm fine with that, and I have to add that I've done all 3 sets of DLC immediately afterwards as well. Like, I haven't, so I am absolutely taking that into account, where I'm sort of like going through one, going through the other, and I didn't have to do what I'm doing either. So it is self-inflicted, but Steve said to do it. So I've got that to do, and I want to catch up for that, and then I'd obviously want to play Spider-Man, and I do want to clear my Switch backlog. It's one of the things that it's really hurting me. It's really playing on my mind, so I need to figure out a way of doing that.
Wait for that Switch 2. The rumours are it's going to be like a PS5 and an Xbox Series X.
I don't.
DLSS.
I don't know. I haven't decided whether I'm going to go and get another. Yeah, I liked the idea, and I did like having it. I basically got this to play Mario, but I don't know whether unless there's a better way of it appearing on my screen, I don't think I'll immediately dive in. I'm not a handheld. I've decided I don't like handheld, so I'm not doing that, basically. And if I have to cut my nose to spite my face, and so be it.
Yeah.
And I've got that PC arriving imminently as well.
It's been ordered, is it?
It was ordered a week ago, yeah.
Yeah,
so I've got that PC lurking.
That's the candidate for Starfield.
Right, so this is what I was getting to. So there's going to be a new avenue that potentially opens up where something like that, which I think I kind of baited you on a little bit last week, to say, is this a PC preferable game? And I think you sort of danced around it a little bit, but I think the overriding feeling is yes, it would be better on there because of the extra power. I think if I did choose to pick it up, I haven't ruled it out and I haven't ruled it in, but it's something that I'm probably more likely to pick up a bit further down the line. It's not saying that I'm imminently planning for this year, but dependent on kind of what happens, I may pick it up the early part of next.
Yeah.
I
Doesn't need
may.
picking up, though. Just chuck it on the Game Pass, surely.
Well, yeah, this is what I mean, though. It's not... I want, if I want to do it, I want to invest in it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to just sort of give it like it's not the sort of game.
You don't want
one
like... eye on a new release coming in 4 weeks that you want to play day one. You want to just have a good couple of months where nothing can really get you. You've got your usual sort of Rocket Leagues and football managers and whatever's ticking you along, but you don't want to be going, I want to play, I don't know, say Spider-Man. In this example, Spider-Man 2's coming in 6 weeks. I don't want to have a deadline. I
don't want to start something where I'm then invested in it. So I think what I've been thinking is I'll see what's going on and how much is there in terms of Scrabblers or things like that. But I do like space-based games, and I think they're pretty cool. But I haven't quite ever found one. I mean, No Man's Sky, when we got that, it never really... It was, as we've said before, it just wasn't what any of us wanted or expected, and I got burnt by that. And I think what you alluded to at the beginning, something a bit more structured. Like I don't particularly care for exploring that much. What I want is a set of guardrails and a story to follow and a purpose.
Yes.
Which is what I think this, and it's kind of like I don't really care if I can't land on the planet, and I can get why people would want that, but it depends what you want from a game. So I think in some ways this ticks the box, but I'm not ruling it in or out at the moment. I want to watch a little bit more of it and see what's what.
Yeah. So I'm on this Spider-Man replay jobby, which will include Miles Morales, just to get that platinum on that one. I've already got the platinum on the original. So why I've done the original, I don't know, because it's as you know, quite an extensive game, and I want to 100% it again, despite there not being any trophies for me to go after. I could have done New Game Plus, actually, and got a couple more trophies, but... I don't like New Game Plus because it ain't canon, is it? You ain't got all those suits.
What does that do? That gives you everything you've already unlocked?
Pretty much, yeah. And it's like...
You just play through it again.
The enemies are harder, and it's like... I'm never interested in New Game Plus. Going back to Starfield, funny enough, I don't know what it is. I don't know what the trick is or what they're doing, but not everyone, people have said that the New Game Plus that they've done for Starfield is actually it's very good or very unique at the minimum. They've gone a different direction.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm interested to get to that at some point, because the standard vanilla New Game Plus to me is like, I just never do it. Even when I replay a game, I never use New Game Plus. I just start from the beginning again, because I like that slow build of
progression.
Yeah, exactly. If it's all given to you, there's no point. So I'm kind of stuck in that part now. Once that's done, once Spider-Man's done and Spider-Man 2's out and done, that's sort of it's like, right, what's now until probably the end of January for Persona 3, which is enough time to play a big RPG. And I've got 3 options. I've got Baldur's Gate 3, which would be a complete unknown, Cyberpunk 2077, the Phantom Liberty DLC, and sort of the final piece of that arduous puzzle of actually coming from the depths of Tut to being an excellent game will be finally complete.
I've really debated that. That's another one that I didn't pick up that now I feel like is in a state. So it's ironic that your list is semi-aligning with mine, because I've said to you before as well that PC and Baldur's Gate is worth, for me, again, broadening horizons.
You could get Cyberpunk on that PC and it'd be fucking amazing.
Well, this is the thing. It kind of broadens that avenue, doesn't it, where you start considering stuff that otherwise were semi off the menu. Yeah.
And the final one would be Starfield. So I've got a decision to make sort of probably November time as to which one of those avenues I go down. I may select something smaller just to give me more thinking time, but I want to commit to one of those by mid-ish end of November, just to give me a couple of months to really commit to them.
What I would say to you there is you've basically... No. What I would say is if the roadmap is planning for Persona 3, do you really want to go from big invested?
I get Persona's so different because it's Japanese art. To me, I'm fine with that.
Okay,
I don't mind. I went from Persona 4 to Persona 5, back to back.
I know,
That's a ludicrous thing to do. So that once I did that, I was like, it's not
I
necessarily.
could do anything.
They are, yeah. I wouldn't want to keep doing Persona, but I think coming from a Western RPG to a Japanese one actually would be quite a nice change of pace because there's normally more guardrails in the Japanese ones, and the storytelling's different and whatnot. But yeah, Starfield. People are still squabbling about the review scores. You know, Microsoft Damage Control are out there patrolling the internet. The Sony Outlaws are out there. Yeah,
94 out of 100.
Well, there you go. He's loving it. So he won't be on the Damage Control Force's hit list. The Sony
Isn't
Outlaws.
that one that we normally call out?
They're trying to bomb any threat of the Xbox doing well from the shadows, so they're out in force as well. And I just think people need to get used to this level of nonsense for any first-party release now between Microsoft and Sony. I mean, you're going to see this when Spider-Man 2 comes out. Maybe not to the same level, but if it scores higher than Starfield, you're going to be able to taste the salt of the green bloods. You're going to be able to literally taste it in the air. If it scores lower than Starfield, you're going to be able to feel the fire burning off the blue bloods of rage. So you got those two squabbling. You've got Nintendo quietly sitting in the corner, looking to release Super Mario Wonder and showing everyone how it's done, and then moving on with their lives. And that's sort of the cycle of life at the moment, which is what it is. But Starfield undoubtedly proving to be a success with the players in terms of engagement, and we'll monitor that closely and see where it lands. What was interesting is the premium edition, the premium upgrade, 35 UK pounds, code in a box, literally a box of plastic with a code in it, charted in the UK physicals charts, number 7.
Wow.
I mean, you talk about saving the environment, and then why are we putting plastic boxes out there with codes in them?
Well, so they get on the charts, evidently.
Well, just do a little cardboards. You used to give out like a gift card. I suppose they're plastic as well.
There's no real way around it.
Scratch
They'll probably
card?
be arguing it.
Like
Well, they'll be arguing on the other
card?
side. They'll be saying this is the only one you've got, whereas all the other games are chucking out all this plastic and CDs.
Yeah. Well, can't save it all.
Wonder what they'll do. You can't chuck out cardboard because it won't keep, and all the collectors will go, ooh, metal.
Yeah, but why would a collector want a plastic box with a code in it? Like at that point, you're not sorry. If you think that's an equivalent physical, you're a liar. You're a nonsense.
100%. There are people that have done that, so they can have it in their little wall collection.
Pathetic.
Is that 100%?
I reckon we'll find a load of those in the tip one day. Like that ET game, they went and buried. They couldn't shift them. It's an old Atari ET game. Oh, you have to. It's basically the long and short of it is there was a video game crash. I think in the 70s, maybe 80s, early it would have been if it was the 80s. But I think it was the 70s, and a lot of it was because on the Atari they were flooding the market with bad games, and like the straw that broke the camel's back was this ET game, which was terrible. It was a terrible game. If you look up any gameplay of it, it's awful. And essentially they printed a load of copies of it, loads of cartridges. They couldn't sell it, and they took them to a tip somewhere in America and literally just dumped them. You know, not every copy did sell some, but the vast majority of the printed cartridges, they dumped them on a landfill somewhere.
That's mad.
Yeah, and that's what ushered in like this video game crash, and then Nintendo sort of revived it with the Nintendo Entertainment System. But that's a different podcast. The history of gaming, inaccurate probably. Anyway, 23 minutes in, Idle Game Chat, Dimp Digital's flagship video game podcast. Apps here and Logan, the Grand Prix winner, looking to win the entire thing, but we'll be checking in on that another time. Patreon.com/Dimp Digital is a place to go to support this. We will move swiftly on out of that intro and get into the next news topic. Here's one for you.
Yep. Star
Wars Jedi Survivor's 7th update has arrived for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. On consoles, Respawn has said it has completely reworked the performance mode and now offers a solid 60 FPS when ray tracing is disabled. Load of other shit in there, but essentially this game came out, and the one big criticism of it was performance on all platforms. In fact, Biff in particular had issues with the PS5. I know the PC wasn't great either. They've added DLSS now, so it took them a few months. April 28th this originally came out, but now it feels like it's a game worth not a game worth going into, but it's in a much better state than what it was when it came out on release. So, are we just better off avoiding games day one? Because we see this time and time again.
The Logan approach.
Well, we do, don't we? The game comes out, it's rough as houses. 6 months later, it's patched up to snuff. So, are we just better off avoiding these games on day one and just reaping the rewards later on?
I think it really depends on the developer, the game, and platform. So it basically depends on everything. So, like God of War, I was there with a pre-order. Like,
cap in hand,
yeah, like that it's likely that's going to be released in. I mean, there was several updates and they patched stuff, but to all intents and purposes, from what I played of it, like nothing wrong with it that I could noticeably identify. So I'll be there, Spider-Man 2, if I feel like it. I'd quite happily be like, yeah, I'll get that on pre-order. So there are some games, but I don't particularly trust EA. And for like new IPs and even like you look at Starfield, like even if I was chomping at the bit for that, I'd have probably still sat here and gone, let me see.
Starfield in particular has the scope to be much better than most other games in a few months, because the scope of it means there's always going to be rough patches with it, and more than other games that will benefit from time. It simply will, because there's probably more things for it to fix up, because not that any game's perfect, but Bethesda games typically get better with time more so than other games, because they start at a lower level. Now this is anecdotally what I'm hearing and seeing, and first-hand knowledge being passed on to me, that this is pretty good shape for a Bethesda game, but in some instances still not the best. So I mean, to be honest, that was a factor with me as well. I was like, this game's going to benefit from more time more than most games. Like, this isn't Naughty Dog, who typically just ship the real polish, and you just kind of you go in on the understanding that it will be that, and if it's not that, and the day it's not that, there will be bloody murder screened. But until they do it, it's kind of like, okay, we know that your
you can give some the benefit of the doubt, right? Because of what they've delivered before, but they're in the minority,
and they are simpler games. They are linear experiences. It's not, and Starfield isn't. So you're always going to miss stuff. But
and I don't particularly mind it, by the way. Like I don't sit here and I'm like, they should all be released. Like ideally, yes, they'll all be released like super polished. But the reality is,
it's not the reality we're in, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Valentino Rossi goes up the road again.
We've got a guy that does that round here, and I'm like, it would go to work at like silly o'clock, or it would be like late.
Yeah.
He'll just go, and I just think, you just got no concept of how loud that thing is.
Is it just the understanding that motorcyclists just can break the speed limit? Because I've never seen one of them going 30 over. Or 40 or even 50 on any of the sort of.
I know. I agree.
Even on the motorway, they go steaming
there
by.
In traffic. Like, do you ever overtake? Like, do you ever go, I better overtake this motorcyclist?
Yeah,
like,
you just.
No, they're always filtering through or overtaking you.
Like, it just feels like it's an accepted, you know, they can just steam off and they get away with it. But I'm sure they don't. I'm almost certain they don't, but they're never speeding at the speed limit.
Mate,
that's not the reason you get one,
how
is it?
How do those Rosses catch them?
Well, they
ain't going to catch them. Yeah, so they know that. Everyone, it's kind of like this accepted thing where it's like, let's not waste our time with this. Yeah. Like, we ain't going to catch them. But yeah, I hate it. It really annoys me. Where were we? So yeah, I think what I was saying was it's kind of like okay for them to release them. I don't know. I don't want to sanction it, but it's kind of I'm okay with it, because I'm not there on most games to like chomping at the bit to play them anyway. I'm usually so far behind things, and I'm okay with that. Like I used to be like chomping at the bit for certain games day one, and now I'm like, do you know what? We'll just sort of wait a week or two, see what's what, and I might jump in then. But it's
with Miles Morales. Just to cut you off, they released that. I think it had a 60 FPS mode at launch and a 30 FPS mode. Months later, they did a 40 FPS fidelity mode, which was a nice in-between. And they also did a 60 FPS ray tracing mode, so you got a little bit of extra grunt there. And again, I'd already finished and played it by then, and I was like, well, you know, I've kind of missed that boat. But those that didn't buy it day one that came along months later. We're like, oh, there's a few more modes and options for me here. And we just spoke about Cyberpunk 2077, the ultimate example, isn't it, of a game that comes out to absolute garbage, is fixed up, and now is looking like a really solid Western RPG to play. Like, living up to what its potential could have been.
Yeah. And, it has to be said that I quite, obviously you prefer them not to have to do such lengthy updates post-release, but I do like that they do that. Like, because back in the day, it'd be like, well, we've released a shit game, we're working on the next one, sorry about that. Like, you'd never get that chance, but we actually get the chance nowadays for them to sort of, and I'm disappointed they haven't done the same thing with Redfall, which is actually going, look, this hasn't hit the target, so we're going to be like continually redeveloping it. Because I think Cyberpunk, I've never played it, but from what I understand, they kind of I wouldn't say redeveloped the game, but reworked.
Well, this late when the DLC drops, they are revamping a lot of the core aspects of it and adding things into it. So it's a free update which does a lot of the gameplay stuff, which is where the heavy lifting's being done. But they're reworking how the leveling works, how the all the ability. Like they actually are going back and fundamentally changing how the game operates. And it's interesting you say that games keep getting developed. There's another story that came out this last week that Sifu Slowcap developed that game, the martial arts game that Biff actually played, and there's some thoughts up in our archive somewhere of that. That released in 2022 March. They put a update out this past week. They said this is the final update patch, and then we're kind of done. But that's a small indie studio working on that game a good 18 months after release. We're sitting here in September of 2023. That's just the way it is these days.
You criticise the digital era, but it's far better, really. I don't know. I do wonder whether back in the day they had to make doubly sure that something functioned, because they didn't have the chance to do this. Once it's been shipped, it's shipped.
I told you about that. I think it was No Mercy had a bug where it would delete your save data. I think you had to send the cartridge back. And there also there's a Metroid game, it might have been Other M, that had a corrupt bug. If you got that, you had to send the game back, and Nintendo had to fucking go in there and fix it because you couldn't just roll out a new update. Every game had to be done individually, because once the code was on there, it was done. That's that. It does open up for garbage. Let's not get that wrong. Like we've seen some trash, but there's always been shit games released, even when there's always been really shit games released. We just talked about ET earlier, going back to fucking Atari days. So it's not like it being a finite disc and no updates prevented there from being trash dropping, because that's just a nonsense. It's just games have a second chance at it. No Man's Sky, another one, dropped. Baron took, people called, it didn't live up to the hype. It's had about 15 updates since then, and people love it now. Like, completely transformed and fleshed out that experience, added all sorts of stuff, and again, not possible without this. So day one, I've bought probably less games day one this year than any other year.
I've one game. No, probably not even that. So I don't think I've bought
Resident Evil 4. That may be it.
I haven't done any day one. I was thinking Hogwarts, but I'm pretty sure I waited to see what the technical reviews were before I jumped into it. So I think that was a couple of days after release. So I haven't done any. The last pre-order I did was God of War.
Hi-Fi Rush, but that was
I don't think I played that day. Yeah, I didn't play that day one either.
Well, I think we say week one, can't we?
Yeah, nothing's changing the metric.
Well, we're talking about updates, aren't we? Nothing's going to change day one to day 7, is it? I think if you play it before the first meaningful update.
Yeah, fine. Yeah. So you could probably chuck Hogwarts and Hi-Fi Rush. There's probably a couple of others that I've picked up before anything's been done. And I think it has to be said that the ones that are fundamentally updated are few and far between. Like, I don't think I've picked up many games where I've gone, good lord, this is absolute shit, because they're normally sifted out before I get to that point.
Yeah. Well, day one in the bins, unless you can trust them.
That's the rule.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we'll make exceptions for it. This year was Resident Evil 4, Hi-Fi Rush, which kind of counts, I guess, at the end of the day. What else did I play? Oh, and Final Fantasy 16. They are the only 3, I believe, that I've...
I don't think there's any big risk there, though, is there? Like Resident Evil...
Felt pretty low risk, yeah, it did, to be honest.
Yeah,
again, that goes back to just knowledge of the franchise or the developer or past experience. And to be fair, the reviews do play a part in that. They are, as I've always said, that temperature gauge. And not like a full-blown little beaker, because that's very exact. It's more like, I'll put my hand on the back of my hand on this radiator. How hot is it?
Yeah.
Like, fuck me, that's hot. And you kind of that sort of level. And
we've talked about that before. That's exactly what I do with them. Like I don't actually go in. Like I haven't even read really any of those Starfield reviews beyond what we've discussed on the podcast last week. But you can just go in and go, like you look at that and you go 86, 87, 88. You go, yeah. Like,
probably
do you know what I mean?
Isn't it?
Yeah. Like it's above average. Like you think, well, I'm probably gonna that's well received. Whereas if it's like a Redfall, you go, well, like, and that's what it's really useful for. It basically stops you playing things that are below par. Yeah. I think is where I'd put it.
Absolutely. Going to end the show in unconventional fashion. Well, not end the show because there's stuff still to come. End this segment.
Yeah, I was going to say, really cutting it short.
The Fantasy Gaming League. Well, I'll tell you what, I've got an hour's chat waiting to go, so I can get away with doing less here. I'll take it. Got some transfers to update the audience on for the Fantasy Gaming League. These are both Grand Prix transfers. Quiet at the moment on that transfer window. There was questions whether there'd be a Saudi Pro League type approach coming in, just trying to get all the best stuff, but people have been very quiet. Pac-Man Adcock's been the only person active. He's subbed out or transferred out, replaced, which has officially been delayed till 2024. So that's a little bit of delay news. And he's got in Persona 5 Tactics, which is he's riding on the coattails of the Persona name there.
Yeah.
But it's a spin-off, Adcock. Got to be careful.
He's like Todd Bowley, isn't he, Adcock? He loves a transfer.
He does. I mean, he had to get rid of Replace, so he had to do something with it. Silent Hill 2 was the next victim, so that's been chucked in the bin. And he's gone for Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1. So that's Metal Gear Solid 1 through 3, I believe, which is due out in a few weeks. So it'd be interesting to see how that reviews.
The originals?
The originals are being remastered and reworked on the control front, I think. So there's a lot that can go wrong with that. That's all I'll say.
Well,
the scope for a disaster is there, but the scope for absolute titles is there.
But if people go back and play some of them now, they'll go, Christ.
And we had this with Metroid Prime earlier this year. It got a 94 because they gave it to people that played it the original. So if they do the same with Metal Gear Solid, people are like, oh yeah, this is great, I remember this. If you give it to a newbie, they're going to go, what? And you have to go, well, yeah, that's how it was back then. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. But that's Adcock's little...
When's that due out?
I keep moving it around.
Put him on the spot now.
Yeah, I did have it somewhere, but I fucking...
You should have said Q4 2023. I'd have gone, yeah.
Well, October 2023, so yeah, it's Q4.
Oh, it's relatively soon.
Yeah, not too far away, but one eye on that for me. But as I said, I'm very scared about going back and playing that because I don't want to sully the memory of Metal Gear Solid.
It's always a risk.
The fact they called it Volume 1 suggests there is going to be a Volume 2, which to me means we're going to get Metal Gear Solid 4 decoupled from that PS3. That's the only place you can play it. And with no backwards compatibility, you can't get it unless you've got a PS3 there or you emulate it. So I'm hoping eventually we'll get a Volume 1 and 2 and that'll be everything.
Yeah, you'd like to think so.
Maybe I'll go in for that. But, we'll see. Anyway, that'll do for this segment. Well, this chat I've had, it's an hour long, yeah? Right. Marvel's Midnight Suns. Now, we've re-recorded stuff. Well, yeah, exactly. We've re-recorded stuff because it's too long. I'm starting to wonder whether that was the wrong approach. We should just let it run and let the conversation flow. Because it is idle game chat, not idle industry squabbling chat. So should the focus be on those game chats and then, this bit's kept a little bit shorter or it just runs as long as it needs to run?
Well, you can take, as I said to you before, you can take the Rogan approach, which is just let it happen and it is what it is. Or... I think for the review segment, my personal view is that it doesn't need to be that long for any game, really.
Well,
let
Starfield,
alone
600 hours.
well, yeah, but what you get paid for in this industry is to be concise in your thoughts and explain it to people in a timely fashion.
But that's what these IGN tutters are chucking out, 10-minute video reviews.
Yeah,
scraping
that's the ideal. That's like, for me, it's like...
Can't do that.
But this is a different format. I still think what we've agreed, I think what we, between us, Steve and Ronnie agreed is the right approach. But it's not set in stone. I think one of the ones we did, wasn't it? It might have been like Spiritfarer, or it was saying...
Well, one was F1 Manager, and that was like over an hour long. And it was a bit like, that's really overindulgent. But the trouble is, it's these tangents that we're doing now, extending the episode beyond what it normally is, so people get annoyed about that. But then a part of me thinks, well, what's the harm? Like, it don't cost me any more time to edit it because it's already done. I've already lost the time, so I might as well use it. Fucking hell.
It's a good point.
I might just unleash it and just let people go for as long as needed. But
I think there has to be a level of structure. But as long as it's gone, if there's meaningful things to say, leave it in. But if it's just dilly-dallying around a point and tangents, you think, well, do we need that tangent? I don't know. Yes. I say just each to their own merit.
Yeah. I'm just going to let them run and see what happens. Not that I artificially cut things off. I don't. Like, sometimes it's like trying to get blood out of a stone. Like, got Biff sitting there and he's responding with yes and no answers.
Yeah, I know.
Like, elaborate, you cunt.
Yes. What did you like about it? The gameplay.
Yeah. Right.
Do you want to elaborate?
You don't listen, so we're fine to slag him off. Adkins caught the scumbag comment last week and left a comment on the YouTube video, so...
He caught it, did he?
Yeah. He is our scumbag, so it's fine. He gets away with it. Anyway, Marvel's Midnight Suns is going to close you out. A nice hour-long chat. Special guest as well. I won't reveal who it is. You have to just wait and see. But not from the usual Dimp realms. The Gaming Gallery Guests of Honour exhibition could be finally opened if Marvel's Midnight Suns earns it. So we'll be catching up with some newbies. You would have heard them on other podcasts, potentially. Anyway, I'll give away the secrets if I keep going. We will... close this part down now and see you on the other side. Here we are then, back with some game impressions. To close out this edition of Idle Game Chat, I'm joined by a very special guest. It's Mr. McWomble from the Pixel Pints podcast. He's coming here to talk about Marvel's Midnight Suns.
Yes, I have. Thank you very much. I should feel honoured and privileged to be welcomed onto Singapore, soon to be the entirety of Asia's best Essex-based video game podcast.
Absolutely. I don't think anyone's got that crown still. There was another one that piped up the other day. I can't remember who it was. May have been Thailand. Oh, no, it's Korea, South Korea. That popped up somewhere. If it was North Korea, I'd be like, yeah, they're probably only allowed to listen to 2 podcasts, so it makes sense if we somehow got through the buffer
the filter.
Would be one of their top podcasts. But yeah, we were definitely doing okay in those regions, not so much in the regions that pay. So of no use really, that particular audience. Marvel's Midnight Suns.
Yes.
Now, we're going to do a little bit of cards on the table. We'll get to know your experience with the game, and you're going to, who knows, you may be the first person to induct something into the coveted Dimp Digital Gaming Gallery who's not part of the Dimp crew, opening up the Guests of Honour exhibition.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even be part of the grassroots community either, because I don't give you guys any money, because I refuse to pay for your beer habit.
You shouldn't. Exactly that. It does just fund bad habits, so absolutely don't do that. Otherwise I won't be around much longer if I carry on the way I'm going, but that's for a different podcast in later life. We'll go through those drinking habits and how it can bring you down. Actually, you're the one drinking today, so you called me out for that.
Yeah, it wouldn't be someone from Pixel Points coming on a podcast without having a beer. So
true.
Cheers.
I think, cheers to you. I've got my big gallon of water here. I actually think when Mitch came on to do a spoiler cast on Keener, he wasn't drinking, but it was like 4 o'clock in the morning for him because he's always up at the crack of dawn. Of course, when I did one with Evan, he was very drunk by the end of it. He was getting through those beers as he does, and because it went on for 3 hours, he had plenty of time to chuck those back. But Marvel's Midnight Suns, let's get through the cards on the table part of this. What did you play this on? What system? What platform?
I played this on my Xbox Series X because I was one of those unfortunate souls who couldn't get their hands on a PS5, and then now I can't afford one.
Was that the real reason why you didn't get one, or was you going to change anyway? Because I think you had both last gen, did you not?
No, I completely scrapped Xbox for last gen for PS4. And never looked back really, but this time around I was just thinking I want a next gen console, but the only one that I can get, because all the scalpers bought out all the PS5s.
Yes, they did.
Was the Xbox All Access, and that served me really well actually. It's completely changed how I buy games, which is I do not buy games day one, so that feeds into the Marvel's Midnight Suns talk, because I did not buy this game at launch.
Ah, interesting. Did you wait for a sale price that you were happy with, or was you hoping it's going to come to Game Pass one day?
I didn't think it would ever come to Game Pass because you and I have exchanged messages on the Pixelmites Discord saying there have never been, as far as I know, any Take-Two games on Game Pass. So I went on the basis that this isn't going to appear.
No.
So and I was really interested in the game. I was following the socials, the YouTube vignettes that people were putting out, the character bios, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to pay 70 UK pounds.
No. Oh, was it a 70 UK pounder as well? Was it?
It was
2K, isn't it? Of course it was.
2K leading the charge on the price increase. So that wasn't going to happen. So when this came out in the October, I thought I'm going to wait.
Yeah.
And got some dosh as a Christmas present, and saw Marvel's Midnight Suns was 47% off at Christmas in a sale. So I jumped right in.
Physical or digital?
Physical, and I got the Legendary Edition as well. So I got all the DLC.
Oh, does that come with the season pass that comes with it?
That came with the season pass, yeah.
That's a good one to get, yeah.
Yeah, so that was, I think it was 99 or 98.
Yeah, it would have been probably.
Yeah, so 47% off. Yeah. So yes, thank you very much, because they were flogging the season pass for 40 quid.
Yeah. So made sense.
No, thank you.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, but I was big. I'm a big comic book Marvel fan. So this was. I hadn't read the original Marvel's Midnight Suns.
So it's based. So Midnight Suns is like a theme for Marvel.
It's like, if you know Justice League Dark, it's like the Avengers Dark.
Okay.
So it's all the stuff that the Avengers deal with, all the kind of spacey stuff, and the Midnight Suns deal with the supernatural.
Gotcha.
So that's where the background to this is. And yeah, I was well into it as soon as I could start playing it. I probably put over 60 hours in. I was 2 trophies away from getting the 1,000 gamer points.
Yeah, the not platinum.
The not platinum trophy.
Yeah.
And the reason that I didn't get that is because one of the trophies was bugged, and the other one would have required me playing a complete new playthrough. And I wasn't ready to do that at the time.
No, it's not I hate it when that happens. I mean, some games demand it, like they demand a second playthrough for various reasons. But if I look back and I've missed one, and I'm like, nah, I'm definitely not going back to do that. Especially 60, 70 hours that have been plunged into this one.
You wouldn't have to. The second playthrough wouldn't have had to be that long. Because you
should have got
just
it quite early.
Yeah, because you could do it doing a new game plus, rather than starting from scratch. Yeah. So you could just critical path the story rather than having to do a lot of side missions to build your characters out.
There you go. You got something to go back to if you choose to in the
exactly. I've still got it in a box.
Have you ever 1,000 out of 1,000 gamer scored a game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got that on Apex Legends.
That's insane. I mean, I know we spoke originally, was like, I'll get you on to talk about Apex Legends one day. I will have to do that because that's insanity. And I don't know much about Apex Legends, and it's very popular.
This was a very welcome break because it's a completely different paced game from Apex, which is what I was playing a lot of at the time.
Yes. Do you have much experience with Firaxis, the developers?
No.
Interesting, because I've played a bit of Civilization and a little bit of the original XCOM. Found XCOM very hard. There was even, I don't know if it's the same with Midnight Suns, but there were fail states, basically. If you failed too many missions, you couldn't get through the game. And that really put me off, because I was like, I don't want to have to restart from much, much earlier just to get through a mission. So once I hit the fail state the first time around, I never went back to XCOM. That was that. And Civilization, I'm like, yes, I could sit here and play this for 100 hours, but I don't think that's a good use of my time. So I tend to stay away from those games.
So Firaxis dialed back some of the elements from XCOM and XCOM 2, so there's no permadeath.
Interesting. Just get knocked down, do they?
Well, how they deal with, because you can't really have Marvel superheroes getting
killed and slaughtered.
Killed off. Yeah.
It'd be awesome if they did, but yeah.
So what they do is they give them injuries. So, and this kind of links into how the game works, some of the game mechanics, and also the. Oh my God, do they love upgrades and crafting in this?
Oh dear. Well, maybe not oh dear for some people.
It's in depth. It's definitely a tactical RPG with a very, very decent superhero story laid on top. They don't half-ass anything in this. That's what I would say. This is a hard game, and I played on normal, and I wouldn't say by any stretch of the imagination this is kind of like baby's first XCOM. No. It's hard. If you go into certain missions with the wrong character makeup in your team, you are going to suffer.
Get found out. So what happens in that instance? I know we're sort of going all over the place, but there we go. That's what happens. It's idle game chat after all. So if you were to go in and fail a mission, do you just restart that mission again, or is that mission gone from your slate of selection and you have to just deal with the consequences?
It depends on what type of mission you're in. Okay. So you can get kicked back to the Abbey, which is your base of operations, and that's a world into itself, which I'll go into in a bit. But what it can do, and the one big bugbear I had with the game, is its save states. It auto saves a lot, and because it's a turn-based RPG in the battle system, it auto saves after every turn. So if after your turn,
I see what they're doing.
If after your turn you or all your characters get knocked out, and you go to load, it will reload back to just before your turn, and there might be no option for you.
Yeah.
So you've actually got to back out, but there's no option for you to back out because you've got to back out to the main menu and then reload a save manually, and that was pissing me off. There's no retreat option.
No. That's interesting. So if you get yourself into a pickle where you can't get over it, you have to just basically go back to either. Well, can you manually save during the mission, or
you can save whenever you want? That's the one saving grace. So
you have to just remember to do that semi-regularly.
Yeah, and it does save. So it will save for the start of the mission, and it will save that as a separate save file.
Yeah.
But I got into the habit of before starting any mission saving.
Yeah. Seems like the sensible things. How long are the missions roughly?
It depends on how hard they are, and if the story missions are obviously longer, they could probably be 1, 2, or maybe even 3 stages.
Right.
But they're not optional because you need to do a number of the side missions to be able to build up the materials that you need to upgrade your upgrade the Abbey, upgrade your cards, because you don't actually upgrade your characters.
No. I remember that came out, the card system. I was a bit like, I was not expecting that, and I know a lot of people were concerned about that. But
I got used to it. I'm not as much as people take the piss out of me on the Pixel Pints Discord for liking Thronebreaker. The Witcher Tales, and I'm some card-based RPG slut, for want of a better phrase. I've never normally played that many deck builders.
No.
This was just one that I happened to get into. It's not that bad. I know people think, "Oh, deck builders, I can't be asked managing." It's not that hard.
Okay.
The hard part is figuring out the makeup of your team. Because, and I'll quickly give you an overview of the roster of characters. Some people you might know, some people you might not.
Yeah.
I won't delve into it because some of it is story based, so I'm not going to give any spoilers away. So, starting off with the Midnight Suns characters, you've got Nico Minoru, Magic, Doctor Strange, Blade, and Robbie Reyes, who's this version of the Ghost Rider.
Yep.
And then early on, you're joined by Iron Man and Captain Marvel from the Avengers, and then your roster fills out from there as you go through the story. But the different characters' skills in their terms of how you use their cards. So you got attack as skill cards.
Yeah.
Some will have a single target high damage. Some will have AoE effect. Some will have multi-target damage.
Yep.
And some characters like Doctor Strange is mainly focused on buffing and debuffing.
So he's like a little support character almost.
Yeah.
Mostly.
So you've got a class system within the characters that you take with you, which is why I say if you don't understand early on, which I didn't.
No.
What these side missions were asking of you, you can very clearly get stuck having picked the wrong teammates to take with you on a mission.
So how did you figure that out? Is there something in the game that tells you? Or is it just from experience?
You just got to learn it.
Okay. And is it the same makeup each time? Or you got to go in and then you're like, oh, I've got a load of these enemies, so actually I needed Doctor Strange rather than, I don't know, whoever.
So there's broadly 4 types of mission. Kill everyone.
Yep. Standard.
Protect a thing.
Oh, I don't like the sound of that one.
Those aren't the most annoying ones, but that's probably because of the enemies who are there. So the enemies have got classes as well. So they've got people who can summon. They've got people who can protect other characters. The worst ones of all are the ones who can health leech.
Oh yeah, that sounds super annoying.
Yeah. And there's other ones who can both health leech and link their health together. So if you want to kill them off, you've got to kill off 2, 3, or potentially 4 characters all in the same turn. Otherwise, they'll keep sharing all their health, and that can get seriously annoying.
Yes.
The other thing about the game is you can't get OP. It auto levels to your power level.
Interesting. Can you be under-leveled? Like if you were to sort of crit path it, would you get in a bit of a pickle later on?
You'll make life harder for yourself, and I'll get on to how I made life really hard for myself with the DLC in a bit. Because I managed to do that because I completed the DLC before completing the main story.
And that's not what you're supposed to do, I guess.
Do not do that. If you ever pick this up and pick up the DLC, complete the story before doing the DLC.
Did it warn you or anything? Or was it just sort of appear in the menu and you're like, oh, I might as well do the DLC? Or did you not know it was DLC you were doing?
Well, I did, because all the characters appear separately. So Deadpool was the first character to come out, and I thought, you know what? I
fancy getting him.
Yeah, because I felt like I wanted to wait as long as possible, so I had my full roster.
Yeah, and then you can hammer off the main story.
And then I can hammer off the main story with the full roster in place. But it's basically treated as a separate storyline. So the DLC treat completely separately from the main story arc. And so, handy hint, once you've completed the game, one of the boosts you unlock is to negate all negative status effects.
Okay. That's pretty powerful then, having that as to call upon.
And the DLC is all vampire based. So all of the enemies will put bleed as a status effect on you, so you lose health each turn.
Oh bloody yeah!
So having no negative status effects would have made that DLC so much easier. It was like me doing an Evan and playing the game on hard.
Yeah. Oh dear.
So I was handicapping myself on that one. In terms of the story itself, so you play the hunter. Hello, generic name, and you're never referred to by anything other than the hunter.
Of course, you're just this new superhero. I guess they're dropping into the world. So they don't have any lore at all, like even in the old comics. This is brand new.
Yeah, they're completely new, written for this story.
Fair enough.
The writing in the game is really good. I know it's kind of comic book level stuff, but it's so good. The character interactions are perfectly written. Tony Stark comes across as the biggest dickhead.
As he should.
Yeah. So Lilith, the mother of demons, has returned after centuries of being banished to the demon realm. And she has come back and corrupted some supervillains and also a resurgent Hydra.
Oh, that sounds scary.
For reasons. So
what is it about Lilith being the antagonist? I'm sure Diablo's got Lilith as well.
She in Christian mythology, Lilith was a demon who am I right in saying that she and Satan got together in some semi-romantic or not or way and created demons?
Right. Okay. So she's not to be trusted. If we use the Christian law book for that. Interesting. I did not know that. That makes a bit more sense. That Lilith is.
So this is where.
So don't name your kid Lilith if you can help it. That's a bit of advice.
Yeah, don't name your kid Lilith, or Mercedes, or Chardonnay.
Can't get away with that in Essex. That's the standard.
So the Midnight Suns agree to resurrect the only person in history who's defeated Lilith in the past, which is you as the hunter.
Oh, so Hunter's a big boy. He's not just some rookie. He's been the
badass coming back from the 13th or 14th century from when he fought Lilith in the past. Lilith happens to also be your mum.
I thought that was just going to be a classic Essex your mum joke, but it's not. That's literally that's in the law books.
So your character arises from the grave to be joined by the character creator screen.
All right, so Hunter you get to decide what Hunter looks like at least.
Yeah. So you can have male or female. You can select from a number of preset heads and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like a Bethesda RPG where you can go through loads and loads of sliders.
No.
Creating your own character. It's all preset.
Yes.
To some people's pleasure, they'll probably be happy that there is no options for transgenderism.
That's bad.
And then you start. So you wake up after a few hundred years and you're surrounded by a group of superheroes who've resurrected you, who don't know whether to trust you because you're the son or daughter of the mother of demons. And go fight. And make friends. A big part of this game is making friends.
Well, yes. When I read one of the, I think it might have been PC Gamer reviews, they were kind of like blah 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 blah, and they said, it's got a lovely Persona type bonding experience, and that sort of pricked my ears up because I've started playing Persona this last year, and immediately I was like, this sounds like it's got a bit more depth to it than I thought. I thought the Abbey would just be a menu screen that you go to and just select your next team, but as I looked into it a bit more, I was like, oh no, this is actually a big part of the game where you have interactions with these characters and they can lead to all sorts of caper.
Yeah, so the game works on a day-night cycle. So during the day, you can talk to characters around the Abbey. You go to, you can spar. So you can train with each of the characters each day. And what that does, it builds your friendship level with them, which... if you get to friendship level 5 with any character, it unlocks their trial, which are balls to the wall hard.
Okay.
So I got to the point where I will give this a go once, and if I can't figure it out, I'm looking it up on YouTube, because I can't be asked sitting there trying to figure out some of this shit about how to because the trials are set up. You go to a demon realm and it will say kill this enemy, but but that enemy might be so overpowered that you can't actually hurt them.
No.
So you need to figure out how to unlock your legendary ability by beating up on little enemies, and then you can take out the big one.
Gotcha.
But it will give you a set of cards and say, but then you can do things like discard cards, and it will give you a new card. But you don't know that. So if you start off with 6 cards and you're like, what one do I... You've got so many potential options, so I just didn't fucking bother with it.
No.
And you unlock their Midnight Suns skin.
Oh, okay, so it's not like you don't get like a power, like it's not like an ultimate ability you unlock or an ultimate card.
You get that.
Oh, you get that as well. So it's worth doing just for gameplay and for, I guess, aesthetic reasons as well.
Yeah, some of them aren't really worth it. Some of them really are.
Yeah.
Depending on which characters you use. I kind of locked in a little bit with a character, with a team build out. Yeah. I won't be spoiling anything because they're already in the material. So I spent most of my time playing with doing missions with Spider-Man and Wolverine.
Yeah. What is your team makeup? How many people can you go on a mission with?
So it's important to note that the team makeup is dependent on building friendships as well. Oh. So every time you go on a mission and you take 2 characters with you, it boosts the friendship level.
Yeah.
So if you want to get all of your characters' special abilities and unlock the Midnight Suns outfits, you need to make sure that you're both training with all of the members. You can only train with one person a day.
Yeah.
You need to then alternate who you take on missions. You can also just chat with people, and that will build friendships. That you can do errands for people, but it's not time wasting errands like go fetch me some ivy and come back and I'll give you some shit like a normal RPG.
I'm playing Final Fantasy 16. Like the world's literally crumbling around me, and they're asking me to go and get seeds. I'm like, well. So
it will be things like, so I remember one. Blade asked me to upgrade one of Ghost Rider's abilities.
Ah.
So the way that it works is like a do me a favour kind of thing. Yeah. But it's not do me a favour. It's can you do this thing for someone else?
And you'll get the benefit if you have them in your team later on.
You get a double benefit in that respect. And every time you're doing anything that increases your friendship level, you're also increasing their underlying abilities. Okay. So this is where you get into the kind of the deep realms of the Fire Axis stuff. So every character, including yourself, has got attribute levels. So you've got willpower, resilience, on top of your normal kind of health, strength stuff. But you don't have to worry about that. It's not like you have to spend points. It's based on that character's makeup. So I'm trying to think of a good example. Blade's strength will increase faster than, say, Doctor Strange's, but Doctor Strange's willpower will increase faster than Blade's, that kind of stuff. So it's based on an underlying set of attributes that they've allocated to the characters. So you don't have to worry about, oh, do I spend this skill point on something? That's not how the characters level up.
No. That's an interesting way of doing it.
The Abbey, you can explore all around the Abbey. Mm-hmm. And you need to do that to be able to unlock different areas, and unlocking the different areas unlocks these points of interest where you can take characters on a hangout. So you go, and I know you can go mushroom picking and bird watching, and
I see painting. A screenshot of people sitting by the pool and stuff. And
you can go pool lounging, all this kind of stuff. It's what you need to figure out is what would this character like?
Okay.
and what we would like to do when you do it. So you can say, do you want to hang out? And this is where the night cycle comes in as well, because those types of things you mainly do at night after a mission.
Okay.
Some will happen during the day, but mostly you can do at night. And the Abbey changes at night as well.
Interesting.
So some things around the Abbey you can only do at night. There's so much to find around the Abbey. You can find these chests, which I guarantee they Take Two would be flogging packs of these keys to unlock these chests, which mainly give you reskins for your characters.
That does seem like a monetization opportunity they've squandered or removed at some point, potentially. So in terms of how time works, do you just get a set number of turns or activities that you can do before and after a mission before it sort of ticks over to the next day? Or is it constantly... And also, is there a number of days that are counting down to something where you've got to get the job done, or will it just keep going indefinitely? You can spend as much time in the Abbey.
Yeah,
as you like.
You can spend as much time during the day as you want until you start a mission.
Yep.
And then when you finish that mission, it then switches to the night cycle.
Okay.
And the night cycle ends when you go to your room and go to sleep.
But you could do 4 or 5 activities.
Yeah.
Potentially. Oh, interesting. That's good. Because on the way Persona works is you've got to make a choice on what you do during each part of the day.
It is locked in a sense that, say, if you've got 4 options for a hangout with 4 different characters, you choose one and that's it.
One of those. Interesting. But you could do another activity in that same
time so
period.
if you certain things you have to do during the day, like all of your upgrading you have to do during the day.
Oh, interesting.
So when you finish a mission, you'll get reward, which they call gamma coil. Gamma's a big thing in this. Every fucking thing's like, oh, gamma this, gamma that. So you take your gamma coil to Tony Stark, and he'll unlock it, and that gives you new cards for your characters. So whoever you took on that mission, including yourself, you'll get new cards at the end of every mission. You may get duplicates, but then you can break those down. Or if you've got copies of duplicates, you can use them to upgrade other cards. Getting into the upgrade system, you need to upgrade the Abbey. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in a world of pain.
Right, I see.
So things around the Abbey that you can upgrade, you need to... One of the first things that I upgraded was what's called the Forge, which gives you then the ability to upgrade to more things.
Gotcha.
And you can, if you upgrade with Tony Stark, he will, when you get your coil analysed, you'll get 5 cards instead of 3. So the more you do, the more you get rewarded. One of the best upgrades in the game is the spar pool.
Interesting.
So if one of your party gets injured. So this is how they deal with KOing.
Yeah.
So rather than permadeath, they will give your character an injury.
Yes.
And there's 2 ways of healing that, which is just waiting and not taking them on another mission. And depending on the severity of their injury, that could be a few days in the game's day-night cycle.
Yeah.
Or you upgrade this spar pool and you stick them in there for a day, and the next day they're fine. Plus, they've got a buff.
Interesting. So you can get them back on their feet quicker. And does the buff last indefinitely, or just for that day?
For the next mission.
Okay, so you didn't take them out, or if you didn't go on a mission for another 2 days, I don't know if you can do that.
No, it will carry over until you take them on the next mission. So that's how Firaxis is dealing with that. The interactions between the characters continues through the entirety of the game. So
all fully voice acted.
All fully voice acted.
Nice.
The characters will chirp along in the background whilst you're running past doing your own thing.
Yeah.
Evan, you can pet a dog.
Did you get an achievement for it?
Yes, you do.
There we go.
Only 16% of players got it, which I thought was disgraceful.
It's Xbox players, though, isn't it? They're probably not they're not dog people. I think they're mostly cat people.
And if you pet your hellhound Charlie,
yes,
enough, you unlock her as a playable card ability.
I like that.
So that's good. Well, I'm trying to think of what else, because there's so much in this game. There's literally so much. how the two different factions, so the Avengers and the Midnight Suns, interact plays a big part of the story, and how you, as the hunter who's meant to be bringing these two sides together to battle against the greater evil, is part of it as well. Because at the start of the game, Tony Stark, being the King Kong dickhead that he is, just completely sidelines the Midnight Suns, doesn't want anything to do with them.
He's like,
I'm here.
Avengers will handle this. I'll handle this, blah, blah, blah.
Until some demons start showing up and he doesn't know what he's doing.
Gets found out pretty quick then.
Yeah. So you've got to handle that, and you as the hunter have got a light dark balance. So certain things will appeal to how you interact with each of the characters will appeal differently to them. So the Midnight Suns are quite focused on we need to get the job done, fuck the Avengers kind of thing. And the Avengers are all about, oh no, we need to make sure that we do this in the right way and we're protecting people. And but then there's a point in the game where all of this comes to a head, and it's handled really well. And it got me to the point where I'm thinking, because normally in RPGs that I play, when they've got kind of good versus evil character, I always do good first and then evil later.
Yeah. Standard.
Because I'm not the evil bastard that I make out I am. But obviously doing that will rub some people up the wrong way.
Yeah. Can you thread the needle between them both, or does it kind of force you to?
You can, but what it does is if you get. Did you ever play Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2?
No.
So at some point on that, so you could become a Jedi Knight or a Sith Lord, and at some point the game locked you out of certain abilities.
Interesting.
Because you'd gone too far. This doesn't.
Okay.
But what it does do is your balance can change on how you interact with people, and your balance can change on what cards you use as well. So to give you, there's two versions of healing. So one just can heal you, or you can choose to heal your party members. The other one that was called Dark Healing steals health from either you or one of your party members and gives it to another one.
That gives you more dark points, presumably.
Yeah. So there's that balance in there as well. There's activities that you can do. So Spider-Man and Ghost Rider set up like a machine shop thing.
Yeah.
There's a book club where Blade tries to chat up Carol Danvers, which is hilarious. So I'm surprised at how much they managed to cram in here in terms of the fact that there's so much character developed and so much dialogue and so much story.
Yeah,
it's really impressive.
Nice.
Where the game lets itself down, is a bit of the performance.
Really interesting.
Yeah. So you wouldn't think in a game that's quite slow paced and turn based.
Yeah.
It wasn't particularly buggy. But there was one door in the Abbey that if you walk from the inside of the Abbey outside, it's fine. But if you turn around and walk back through that same door, the frame rate tanks to about 5 frames a second.
Interesting.
And it's only one door.
How's that not been picked up somewhere?
And I couldn't figure out why it was happening from the beginning of the game all the way through to the end.
Yeah. But I bet you did it every time just to test it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because it was the quickest way to get from the training area to another part of the Abbey. So it
was there for.
I don't know if it's kind of loading in assets or what, but
he didn't like that.
It really didn't like it. I'm trying to. I'll get on to this game smells like a live service.
I think there were people suggesting that at some point it may well have been stripped out perhaps due to other negative receptions of other unnamed games that have done something similar. But yeah, talk to me about that. Where's some of the stains of this stench that you can see? We heard about the chess boxes earlier that you feel like maybe would have been a premium key, little upgrade there.
Yeah, so I think this game got hurt by the rumours that this was going to be a live service. On top of some other stuff, which I'll wrap up at the end. And I'll stop interrupting you. Your name's not Matt.
No, that's fine.
So in the character screen on the left-hand side, there is easily space because you have a little icon of your party members' heads, and everyone who you've recruited to be part of the Midnight Suns at this stage. There was space for at least another 6 or 7 heads.
Oh,
and it's just grey.
Just greyed out.
Yeah,
interesting.
Where you go to your mission select screen, which is there's space along the top which gives you a bar where you can go to the different areas where you can do your missions. There's space for at least another 2 areas in there. And the biggest giveaway that I found was the credits for the senior VP and the VP of live service.
Yes, they've done some work on it. It may not have made the final cut, but they probably spent a long time trying to figure out how to make this a live-ish service game. That's interesting.
It could have worked as well. It could have done. I mean, I enjoyed this game enough that if they put out another DLC pack, I'd buy it.
That's good. That's a good sign. If they had implemented some other... Sorry, that's the wrong question. Did any of these sort of stains of live service get in the way of the game or the flow of it at all? Did it ever feel like that you were kind of grinding unnecessarily, or did it feel like, no, those elements are gone and they're not really impacting the flow of what I'm trying to achieve here?
The gameplay and character progression, no, not at all. Which are the main elements. The thing that would have really pissed me off is the crates.
Yeah.
Is if they'd locked decent stuff behind those and then made you pay to get the keys to unlock them. Yeah. No, get to fuck.
Get to fuck, yeah. No, it's interesting. Any other business? I know you've got a stream of notes there. It's very difficult to pick and choose, but I'm conscious of your time more than anything.
I think the main thing is talking about how this game suffered. I don't know if it was coming off the back of the absolute shower that was Marvel's The Avengers.
I'll tell you what, I know some people don't like the what they call those space fuckers, the Avenger space fuckers that are up there. What's his name?
Star-Lord.
Guardians of the Galaxy. I know a lot of people didn't like the Square Enix version of that.
That was a good game.
Exactly, but I think some people got in their heads that, it's another Square Marvel game, which, the Marvel Avengers game we're talking about, which really did just they took a big fart basically and left a big cloud of stench around Marvel as a gaming property for a little while. And I think you're right. I think there was a lot of apprehension with this game before it had even come out, simply because it was a Marvel property. And let's be honest, 2K are publishing it, so you're never really sure what they're going to do and what they're going to fuck about with. I mean, I trust Firaxis to deliver a good game, but when you've got those overlords, you're never quite sure. Yeah,
which is why if you take Take-Two's other notable franchise of NBA 2K and the amount of literal in-game gambling that they've crammed into that, that would put me off a bit just for my disdain for Take-Two.
Yes.
But the other thing is 70 UK pounds.
Yeah, it does. It does seem a bit eye-watering. And this is not a diss of the game's quality, but if it does feel a bit like a Firaxis game being that amount, I don't know what it is. Like, I'm not sure I would have paid 60 quid for XCOM when we were doing 60 UK pounds back then. It always felt like perhaps a step down. I don't know if that's necessarily fair or not. But they were one of the, because not all games are doing it. Now we've got to the stage where Microsoft are doing it as well, and Jim's been doing it since he could. But I think the 70 UK pounds even last year was still bothering people to a certain extent. And
Yeah, I'm not paying £70 for a game ever.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. So I think that hurt the initial sales. That put Take-Two on the back foot. They didn't really publicise this game at all.
No.
So there was no real marketing push for it. That hurt it. The fact that it is a niche style game will also have hurt it. So overall, I'd say there's quite a lot of stumbling blocks put in front of this before it even came out.
Yeah. But it sounds like, from your experience, having gone through it, they overcame it mostly, which is a positive.
So when we were talking, I whacked in OpenCritic. So the critics' average is sitting on an 82.
That's no disgrace.
I'd say that's a fair score. This will say 91% of critics would recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair as well. One thing that did piss me off about the game is the UI. It's tiny.
I played XCOM on a PC, and I remember thinking, I'm not sure how this would translate to a controller, and I wonder whether this had similar issues.
So not the control scheme so much, just the actual UI. The text is tiny,
right?
And you can increase it by up to 100%, but it's still tiny.
Still not big enough.
So I'm sitting about 6 feet away from a 43-inch TV, and I'm leaning in.
Yeah.
And because you've got card-based things, and as you upgrade your cards, it gives them extra abilities. So from some tiny text that you might just about to be able to see, as soon as you start adding new abilities onto those, the text shrink.
Oh, because it squeeze them all on.
You can't fucking read any of it.
No.
So you've got to memorise what each of the cards now does from when you've upgraded it, but you might not have used that character for ages because you were upgrading another character.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's got its issues, but overall, what I would say is, if you are any kind of a fan of Marvel IP and you're not put off by the fact that this is a deck builder turn-based RPG, you should absolutely buy this game.
Wow. Yeah. Even the deck building, though, it sounds like, I know people call you a deck building fan, but you're not really. It's just that one Witcher game, and it sounds like to me that it's been done in a way that makes it enjoyable. So therefore, even if you haven't played a deck builder before, you could probably jump into this and still have fun, particularly if you like the source material, because it sounds like that's where its true strengths are. And
it strays quite far away from the source material, because back in the day in the 90s, when the Midnight Suns series came out, it was SONS, because they were all men, whereas obviously they've changed it now to SUNS, and they've actually got some decent, well-written female characters in there, particularly Nico and particularly Magic. Carol Danvers is a bit dulled by comparison, because they've got Nico and Magic have got much more interesting backstory, which I won't go into because the game fleshes out all of this. So if you don't know anything about the characters, you don't have to, because you will learn about all of their backstory by having the conversations with them, which equally builds up your friendship level with them, which equally increases your strength and your ability to go through the game.
All worthwhile doing. So a question on that, like character backgrounds, are there like a shitload of books and stuff to read about them, or are you saying the interactions are what feed you this kind of backstory of them, or is it a bit of a mix of both?
So you can go into your character screen where you can select what outfits they wear, and you can unlock a load of different outfits for them, and different colour schemes for those outfits, which I guarantee would have been part of bundles that you would have had to have paid for, and some of them are shit. But so you go to a character screen and you can look at their abilities, you can look at what their card abilities are, you can look at what level they are, you can look at their individual attributes, and it'll just give you like a 4-line bio.
Oh.
And that's it. Everything else you will learn by talking to them.
That's good, because I'm sick of reading books within games, just trying to learn what's going on.
There's one weird, slightly creepy thing, which is you can give them gifts.
I think I saw this,
Yeah, it is, and you need to craft the shop. So you need to buy this with your upgrade points to craft this gift shop.
Yes.
That you collect this substance called gloss, which I guarantee again they would have been selling you gloss packs.
Yeah.
And all gloss is basically it's your cosmetic currency.
Gotcha.
And you can buy, and these scale up from common all the way up to legendary. So you can give someone a crystal ball, and they'll go, "Oh, great, thank you very much," and you might get 1+1 friendship point.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one of the ones that I did was you can buy legendary comic books, and if you give that character their own comic book, you can get kind of +10 friendship points, which means you boost that character much more quickly. One thing I would say is if someone else picked this up, you'd probably end up playing a completely different playstyle to I did.
Yeah.
Particularly if I was a kind of light side, so I couldn't use. Well, you can still use dark side cards, but
It's counterintuitive what you're trying to build towards. Yeah.
exactly. So I did kind of by the end of it lock myself into here's the two characters who I like the most, and here's the abilities that I like the most, which was mainly single point damage, knockback,
Yeah.
and healing.
Yeah. Get them heals in.
Yeah. So one thing I've not done, and I want to race through this quickly, is how each of the levels is set up. So when you go out on a mission, you're in an enclosed arena, like you would be in XCOM.
Yeah.
But there's, unlike in XCOM where there's levels to it, you're all on one plane.
Okay. Yeah.
And what you can do is you can knock people off ledges. So if you're in an area where there's a drop, you can knock people off. You can use the environment to attack people with. So if there's exploding barrels, you can blow those up. And if there's people within a range, and it will show you the effective range of all of these things.
Interesting. So you know you're not going to do it, and then it go, oh fucking hell, it's missed everyone. It will show you exactly.
And the other thing that this game does that XCOM doesn't is guaranteed a hit. So
the percentages are gone, so you don't have to worry about getting 95%, and then that fucking dozy bastard goes psst, and whiffs him.
Yeah. So the only thing that you'll see that on is if you're knocking someone off a ledge. So if you're knocking a light character off, they've got a higher chance of falling off than a heavy.
Gotcha. This is a good trade-off.
I'm trying to think if there's anything that I've missed. But what the game does is feel like you need to be engaging with all of the characters.
Yeah.
And since this is you're the main character, but basically you're a blank slate.
Yeah.
So it's all of the other people who've got personality, and you need to build up your own personality
As you go.
So you do that as you go.
Yeah.
And they did an absolutely brilliant job with that. I wouldn't say if you get up close, it's not exactly a pretty game.
Don't zoom in. But it's serviceable for a tactical card based combat game.
And some of the costumes that you can unlock, they've absolutely kind of chef's kissed the nostalgia on some of those.
Interesting. I've got one question left. Does Hunter get their own comic book spin-off? Or is that not possible?
No, it's not. It's not possible. What the game does is it allows you to deck out your room as the hunter, so you can spend your gloss.
So the hunter is absolutely an avatar of yourself or a role that you decide to play. There's no personality for this.
So when you finish any mission, it will give you an end screen with a score.
Yeah.
And it will tell you.
Oh, I hate being judged at the end of missions.
Yeah, so it'll give you a star rating of 1 to 3, but it doesn't really mean anything.
No, but it's still kicking the bollocks when you've just done like the hardest fight. And it's like 1.5 stars, and you're like, it took me 2 hours to get through that. What else could I have done?
Yeah. So none of the stages are that long.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah, you could. So if you're doing side missions, the side missions are graded by easy, normal, and hard.
Yeah.
And obviously the scale of reward there, depending on which one you pick. The hard ones are fucking hard.
Yeah.
And I was playing on normal, and there's 5 different difficulty levels. So easy, normal, hard, something else, and extreme. Yes. I'd hate to see what hard level look like on extreme difficulty.
Yeah,
I'm never playing that.
Not for me either, that one.
But they give you these comic book covers. So if you've gone out on a mission with, I don't know, Spider-Man and Iron Man, it will give you a comic book cover like AI's done it. So you could be standing there as Hunter, and then Spider-Man could be swinging in behind you. And, and then you can turn those things into art that you can put up in the wall of the Abbey.
I see. That's quite a nice touch. You can even kit out the Abbey in your room and whatnot. I like doing things like that just to kill a bit of time.
Yeah, so I fully upgraded all of that. Some of the like I said, some of the achievements were bugged, particularly with the DLC.
I just heard Evan collapse again, as he heard it for the second time, that there could be a trophy that gets bugged if he ever decides to play this.
Evan will never play this game.
Well, unless you make him, you could do one of your... It could be a game to pop into him, so you have to platinum it just to really stick one up him.
Yeah, if you platinum that, I'll play one more Yakuza game.
Yakuza Kiwami, the first one that was remade, is not that long. It's not as long as Zero. So
I don't care. They can all fuck off. I've forgotten what I was saying now.
That's all right. I've started being silly, didn't I? Took you off your game.
It's not hard. I'm 3/4 of beer in on a Thursday.
I fancy a beer now. As we draw this to a close, I'm getting thirsty. I don't have any in the house, but I do have to go out a bit later to do another errand, so I could just do with grabbing some beer after drinking like piss lager all weekend for being at that wrestling event. I want a proper beer, if you will.
Yeah. That's so bugged achievements.
Oh yes,
I got right to the end of the game, so I'd managed to get through all of the DLC. I looked through the achievement lists, thought, I've done that, but it's not showing up on the achievements.
No.
Went to start the last mission, and then suddenly all of the achievements started popping up all at once.
Interesting.
Which was annoying as fuck, because they're describing what's going to happen in the last mission, and suddenly I've got all of these...
All this shit going...
Yeah, all of these Xbox achievements popping up at the bottom of the screen.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny, but annoying if you're trying to listen to what's going on.
I was seriously pissed off, because this is meant to be the build-up to so this is the point that you can't go back.
Right, so you're in for the ride at that point. It's all everything's going to be really important from now onwards.
Yeah, and that's when I got about 20 achievements all pop up one after the other.
How funny. Well, we've come to that stage in the chat where you get to make a decision on whether Marvel's Midnight Suns gets to go into the Dimp Digital Gaming Gallery. You can choose to not induct it. You can say, no, sorry, I didn't like X, Y, and Z, and therefore we'll just shut the doors now. There's no grading, there's no standard that needs to be given to it. We just walk away and we go and have a beer somewhere else. However, if you do want to induct it, you'll be able to, I guess, reward it with either a platinum, gold, silver, or bronze standard. Just as a little... people will look around, they're like, oh, that's what you thought of that. And you can interpret those precious metals by however you like in terms of scores in your head and translate them, but I'll give you no more guidance than that. But the first question is, does Marvel's Midnight Sun earn itself a place in the Dimp Digital Gaming Gallery and officially open up the Guests of Honour exhibition?
Absolutely it does.
To be honest, even if this was Yakuza 0, I think you still would have inducted it just to be the first person to get it in the gallery.
No, I wouldn't have done that. Would have been...
You'd have had to just be honest and say, no, I didn't enjoy it.
I'm sorry, that would have been rip the Band-Aid off and run down the road.
And therefore, you get to choose how you want to sort of reward it. Platinum, gold, silver, bronze are your options. And
having been an avid listener of this podcast for many years, I don't. There's no way that I could justify putting this in a platinum.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
With the bugs that were there, with the type of game that it is, just doesn't deserve it.
Doesn't sing to you, in those instances,
no.
Yeah.
Compared to what other people have put in, it's not of the same quality.
I don't know. I've seen Adcock and Adkins both put in some right old dross, and I have no option but to accept it. But
So where I'd sit, okay, if this was my personal thing, I'd go gold.
You can.
However,
I want it to be that because it'll say Keith McWomble underneath it.
However, if taking into thinking about other people and how they might feel about this, because it is niche, because it has got some elements in there that people might be a bit skewed towards. I was also thinking silver.
Keith, I'm telling you, go with your heart.
Oh, it's got to be gold then.
There we go. Done. Marvel's Midnight Suns earns itself a gold rating and is in the Dimp Digital Gaming Gallery and opens up the Guests of Honour exhibition. So that's the way to do it. Don't worry about the other fucks. They can play it and find out for themselves, can't they? I want personal opinions representing these little plaques.
I think this game was done a massive disservice.
Yeah.
From Take-Two, how it was marketed or not, the fact that it probably wasn't marketed very well, the fact that it was coming off the people ill feeling towards Marvel. There's a bit of Marvel fatigue going on.
Yes.
This game deserves to be played more. And the fact that you can get it now you can get the base game for £20.
Bargain.
I
mean, what was it, 60 odd hours, did you say, with all the DLCs?
Over 60.
Yeah, I mean, that's
closer to 70. I think it was 68 hours when I finished.
Yeah, I've heard other good, like outside of like what you'd call the IGNs and whatnot, but other podcasts, I've heard some great opinions on this. So it sounds like if it sucks you in, you like the setting and you like the. If you come in with an affinity for Marvel and that world and the Midnight Suns, then the character work alone is almost going to draw you in and keep you there. And then even those that aren't well versed in deck building, it's at a stage where you can enjoy it. And I think
exactly
people should take the plunge. 20 UK pounds, come on, do them a favour. Anyway, McWomble, it's been fantastic to have you on. Tell our brand new South Korean listeners and viewers where they can find Pixel Pints and give that a nice plug.
Yes, so I do a podcast with some friends called Pixel Pints Podcast. You can find us on Instagram at Pixel Pints Pod. You can find us on Twitter, because I refuse to call it X, at Pixel_Pints. You can find us on YouTube, just search for Pixel Pints. You can find me. I manage our Instagram, so anything on there is me. And you can find me on Twitter at Keith McWomble.
Absolutely. Make sure you go and listen to or watch the podcast, because you can watch it live. Just go over to the Twitch channel and give them a follow there so you can get the notification. The archive goes up on the YouTubes and also on your favourite podcast app, so you know where to find them. Everyone else, I hope you enjoyed that little sideways kind of opinion. Not like Keith's sideways, but it's nice to get some other opinions outside the core Dimp group. I do want to do this more often, and Apex is definitely something I want to sit down and talk to you about in the near future, so we'll make sure.
Yeah, I've definitely got opinions about Apex Legends.
Yes, and it's one of those things I want to be able to revisit like 12, 18 months later, because those games are evolving, and you know they can be on a higher one year, and then next season they've fucked everyone off, and you know there's some interesting chats.
I was on a high last week. I got 84 kills with one character in a week. Guess how many I got the next week?
8. That's the roller coaster ride of live service battle royale games, I guess. But great to have you, great to speak to you, and we'll get you back soon for sure. Everyone else, nothing more for us to say other than thanks for your time and ta-da.
Ta-da.
This was a Dimp Digital production.